Okay, students, welcome back to day 2, I guess, of your distance learning experience. Hopefully on Tuesday you're able to complete and finish up lesson 15, which was velocity. So today we're going to be moving into lesson 16, which is collision detection. And so I kind of alluded to this last time when I talked about the side-scroller game at the end, and how the mushroom going across the screen, it doesn't really help unless you can detect when it hits the frog. If you hit the frog, then you lose points, or if it doesn't hit the frog, then you gain points once the mushroom kind of goes past the screen. So today, here in the lesson, the class learns about collision detection on the computer. Pairs explore how a computer could use the sprite location and size properties and math to detect whether two sprites are touching. The class then uses the isTouching block to create different effects when sprites collide, including playing sounds. Last, they use their new skills to improve the side-scroller game that they started in the last lesson. And once again, if you didn't complete the lesson last time, when you go to work on the side-scroller game this time, it's still not going to work. It just copies the code that you had. It doesn't magically fill it in and get it to work for you, and then you just continue on. You have to go and fix what it is that you messed up. So if you didn't really understand or get how to get the frog to come up and then come back down, and how to get the mushroom to go across the screen and then restart back at the beginning again, go and review my videos explaining how to make sure that you get that done. I show you the code, I show you how to do everything, so really there isn't any excuse for you not figuring this out. So new code, we're going to do the sprite is touching, and then you have to pass in the target, so you're trying to figure out what it is that it's touching, and then there's a sprite.debug code that we're going to use to debug some of the problems that we're having. So let's go ahead and jump right into this lesson. We hit continue here. So look at the frog jumping in the game to the left. It looks like the game from the last lesson, but the frog moves the mushroom if it hits it. What code do you think would help the computer to know whether the two sprites are touching? So if I don't jump in time, the mushroom is going to tilt while it is colliding with the frog. And if we just leave it there, it just tilts the whole time. So hopefully, those of you watching at home, think about what it is that you could do to try to code this up. I would imagine that a solution to this could be something that contains conditional statements, definitely. So we're going to be checking for something. In this case, we're looking to see if the location of the mushroom is going to be the same location as the frog when it's kind of passing through. So we'd have to compare the y of the mushroom with the y of the frog, because if we compare the x, then well, maybe we have to do two comparisons. We have to check to see if it's the same x as the frog, and then see if it's the same y as the frog as well. Because if we jump and it goes underneath, it's still the same x, but the y is different. So let's go ahead and look and see what they're going to talk about here. So the code below uses the sprite's X and Y positions to check whether they're touching. It will change the balloon sprite's animation when the tack touches it. Use the arrow keys to move the tack until it touches the balloon. So this is kind of what I was talking about with, we've got to compare the X and the Y in order to see if they're going to touch. So if I move this tack here, and I want to hit the balloon, then when it hits the balloon, it's going to pop. You do not need to change any code on this level. Read the if statements inside the draw loop and find the different sprite properties and how they're compared. So discuss your code with your partner, which we this time don't have partners because you're not sitting next to anyone. You're on your own, at your own computer, at your own house. What would you write? What would you want to write this code? Oh, would you want to write this code every time you checked whether the sprites are touching? So we look here, it says if tac.x is greater than balloon.x and tac.x minus balloon.x is less than tac.width divided by 2 plus balloon.width divided by 2, or tac.x is less than balloon.x and tac.x minus balloon.x is greater than negative tac.width divided by 2 plus balloon.width divided by 2. And then you also have to check this whole thing with the y. So you check the x's, you check the y's, and then that kind of determines if they are indeed touching. So hopefully you would think I never would want to have to write all of this code every single time I want to determine if something was touching. And so let's move this back over. There we go. So let's finish that. And we'll continue. So instead of having to do all of that stuff, code.org has introduced this nice little thing for you called the isTouching block. And in fact, let me go back to my starting position here on this code. So writing out the math each time you check whether two sprites are touching can take a while. So a programmer called created the isTouching block, which can check whether one sprite is touching another sprite, or the target. The computer is still doing the same math in the previous program, but you don't have to worry about it because another programmer already did the work for you. So inside the draw loop, drag the isTouching block into the if block. And then don't forget to change sprite to balloon and target to the tac. So in here, we're going to say in our function, draw function, if we need to put the isTouching here, we're going to set the animation of the balloon to be popped. So if the tac touches the balloon, we want to pop the balloon. And so of course all of this code down here as well is just how are we moving the tac, and they're using the counter pattern in order to move. So they're not using velocity like we did last time, but they're using the counter pattern. So as you hold down the key, it will move up, down, left, or right. So for this one, all we've really got to do is find the isTouching block, and we put it inside our if statement here, right there. And then as they indicated kind of in the hint, we need to make sure if the balloon is touching the tac, then we're going to have it pop. So we click run, gonna move the tac here, and voila, we have popped the balloon. So the rest of the lesson is going to take you through learning a little more of the fine details of the isTouching block. If you've understood as you've followed along with this video and you know what you're doing, feel free to just skip the other videos. But if you want a little more help on some of the things, or you kind of get yourself lost, then go ahead. I'm going to probably do about every other thing and just make sure that everyone's able to understand and get through all of these parts of the lesson.